Hello friends, this is Scott back at the Project Garden. It is the early October or kind of mid-October update, garden update. I haven't been over here for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Didn't seem to matter much. There is a ton of produce. So today I came over here to grab some potatoes and carrots, and then I saw tomatoes with the freeze coming tonight. I needed to pick all the peppers, the tomatoes, the cucumbers, whatever I could salvage, because I think we're going to have probably a normal freeze tonight. Won't be a hard freeze. I think it'll be 32, but that'll be enough to take out some of the crops, or most of the crops. Mr. Lincoln is hanging out with me today. He was so excited to get out of the house. He's been kind of sitting home because it's been raining for the last 4 or 5 days. So we're having a nice sunny day, working hard out here in the Project Garden, and I just realized that fall is the busiest time of the year again because I've got a lot to pick, a lot to process. And then I've got to put the garden to bed. I've got to get some fresh manures and some leaves and bedding and things like that to put the garden beds to bed. Also, I want to plant some garlic this year. I'm not going to do that today. I did bring it with me, but I'm going to take it home and plant it in the raised bed at home. That'll be where the first load of garlic goes, and I'll be back over here once I'm got this garden kind of put to bed. So I keep saying put to bed. I feel like I need to be put to bed. It's been a lot of work lately. It's a busy time of the year, and so let's go take a look at the garden and see how we did. From my intro, it's been taking me a couple weeks to get this video made. I went ahead and made a few other videos with some more timely topics, but now I've got to catch up a little bit. And again, this was filmed in mid-October, and it's right before the first scheduled freeze, but what we found out was it never froze. So we still have produce in the garden, even today. It's early November. But anyway, here we're looking at all the corn, and there's still some old dried ears on here on the corn that I'm going to take home, feed to the chickens when I clean the garden out. But yeah, I need to tear all these out. But just taking a quick look-see, coming around the corner, the zucchini is still alive, everything's still alive. Cucumbers are there. There's some big cucumbers. You see some that are overripe because I haven't been by to pick them. And the homeowner hasn't come out to get any lately. So it's, as I've said a couple times in videos, at this time of the year, the garden is abundant, and we're getting kind of tired of vegetables. It's funny to say that, but you do get tired toward the end of the season. Here's some leeks, as you see there. They started out as these little grass plants that we planted, and they're now starting to fatten up a little bit. I pick a couple today. We're looking out over the brassicas and the Swiss chard, and there's tons of Swiss chard. The homeowner doesn't like Swiss chard, so it's mostly went to waste. I do grab handfuls to take home to the chickens, and I'll end up doing that with the rest of this. There's some turnips still in the ground. As you look over here, there's still some brassica plants. I'm leaving them in the ground just so I can take them home to the chickens. They love to eat the brassica plants, so I'm kind of just spacing it out so I don't give them everything in one day. But every day I come over, I grab a few plants and take them home, and the chickens enjoy them. But there's still some edible stuff in here. As we zoom around, there's some cabbages in here. But here's some habanero peppers. You see a whole bunch of habaneros. There's lots of them, so I'm going to pick all those today. And this plant's done pretty well. And they're hot. Those peppers are pretty warm. There's some also, you see some jalapenos, red jalapenos, and some green ones in here. And we'll pick those too, and we'll get those dried up or frozen. Now lots of carrots still, and I still have, even in November, I've got tons of carrots. I've got to go dig up a bunch and put them in the freezer, prepare them and put them in the freezer. Lots of carrots. There's an eggplant still, looks like. Couple eggplants. And as we scan around, more carrots, and then we scan around into the potatoes, and those are the turnips right there. We're trying to peek in here to see turnips, but I don't think I did a very good job. I can't really see any in here too well. There's still some good-sized turnips, a little bug-eaten. And you see the last of my potatoes. There's still quite a few here to pick, and it's been a great harvest this year. We've had lots of produce. So overall, I'm very happy with the Project Garden. For a first-year garden, it has done very, very well, and I'm pretty tickled with it. Oh, here's the red cabbage. There's a couple heads I'm going to pick today, 2 or 3, and they're still good. Again, these were ones I planted in the spring, and they took them this long to finally produce something, so it's kind of strange for a spring planted crop it's all the way into November. We still haven't picked these. But scanning back around, the garden is looking pretty messy, but it's a lot still going on here. Now we're looking at the tomatoes. I wasn't planning on picking tomatoes today, but then with the weather forecast, I decided that I better do it. And there's lots of them. I'm picking anything of any size, green ones, red ones, or in between. I just want to make sure that I get them in the house, ripen them on the counter. Now, I didn't prune these tomatoes this year. I didn't take very good care of them, but they did produce a lot of tomatoes. But where I put them along these rocks, as you see behind me, there was a perfect home for slugs and snails. And so we've got lots of that to deal with. So a lot of these tomatoes have been munched on. But the cooler it's getting, it's not killing off some of the bugs. And so some of these later ripening tomatoes or yet to ripen tomatoes are not blemished by slugs and snails. But there's still some damage to a lot of them. But for my small family and the homeowner's family here, they're small also. So we got plenty. But I'm going to move these tomatoes out into a main row next year. They kind of just got stuck here because I planted too much other stuff this year. So I will get a better garden plan once I now realize what the homeowner will eat, what he doesn't eat, and then we can grow some things that he'd prefer versus some things that I prefer. But as you see, I'm pulling out quite a few of the ripe tomatoes in here. There's lots of them. And just going to take them home and let them ripen. I'll share a good chunk with the homeowner, but I'll take a lot of them home for some tomato sauce. As with most crops, I always go double back and go through the crop again just to make sure I'm getting the majority of them. And there's still a few in here I'm finding. You can look at something from one direction, then look a different direction and see a totally different amount of crop that you missed the first go around. But again, just trying to get as many as I can, just trying to protect them from the freeze. And then once I get them in the house, they'll ripen up, and some of them will rot out, and I'll just feed those to the chickens. But anything with any blemishes will not last. So there'll be plenty of food for the chickens. They enjoy it also. So as they say, it is what it is, and next year I'll do a better job with my tomato crop. I'm picking some peppers, and I'm finding a bunch of Anaheims in here. We have a lot of the hot peppers, the habaneros, as well as the jalapenos are in here. I'm just picking as many as I can find because, again, once it freezes, peppers are very susceptible to frost, so they'll be done with the first frost. But as I said earlier, it didn't freeze, so it's even into November, and I've got to go back over to the project garden in the next day or so. And I bet you we still have lots of other crops that are still surviving. I don't think they've had any freeze yet. Different parts of the valley are different, so maybe they've had a freeze over at the garden. I haven't been there for a week or so, but we'll see when I get over there. But these are picking lots of peppers, and there's a good surplus amount. I'm either going to dry these or I'm going to put them in freezer bags and just freeze them because peppers are good just to pull out and use them for salsas. Here's some Anaheims that I found, and they're not huge, but they're nice. They got a little bit of some sun bleach and a little bit of bug damage, but they're still tasty. Here's the first pull of Leeks, first harvest. They're not huge, but they're getting some size to them. They got a great root structure. Again, Leeks are one of those plants that's so funny because they're like a little blade of grass when you plant them, and they turn into, if you have a good year, they turn into several inches thick. But mine are going to be smaller this year, but they're still tasty. Now we're digging into the potatoes, and I got to pull out some of this. I've been digging in this bed for a couple weeks, and I've got some spent plants in here that I just need to get out of the way. And as you see, I'm finding some good ones in here, but I've got to get rid of some of this junk so I know where the potatoes are. I don't want to dig into the dirt and end up cutting the potatoes. But at home, I planted my potatoes in plastic bins above ground, and this year I had very poor success. They're very tasty. They were small, but they were not. They don't nearly do as well as they do in the ground. And as you see, as I'll show you some harvest here, the potatoes are good size. It's been a good potato year here at the project garden. And there's some really nice ones, nice big ones. Potatoes and carrots can be left in the ground, even after the first frost. If you cover them up with some straw, you can just store them in the ground. I'm not going to do that this year, though. I'm just going to keep whittling away. Every time I come over, I'm going to dig a few up and get them processed or get them cleaned up a little bit and store them in my pantry at home. I'll give the homeowner a good supply of potatoes. He likes his potatoes, and he'll eat some carrots also. But there's quite a few in here. They're all different sizes, and again, small ones don't store very long, so you usually eat those up quicker. And then you just leave the big ones for a little bit later, or baked potatoes or whatever you want to do with them. Very, very tasty. Now here's some red Pontiacs. They're pretty good sized potatoes. So I've got a good variety of all different types of potatoes. I planted like 8 different varieties this year. But there's some areas that did better than others. Some are pretty weedy, so I'm just going to kind of go through here. Need to make sure once I've got this all dug up, I'm going to go through and redig it again just to make sure I'm getting all the potatoes. I don't want a bunch of sprouting potatoes coming up in this bed next year. I think I want to probably plant the garlic here this fall, and so I'm going to want to make sure that I rake this out good and get all the potatoes so I don't have any issues with volunteers next year. Well, here's a nice bucket full of potatoes. There's 5 gallons. It didn't take me very long. I didn't dig up a whole bunch. Now we're over to the carrots. And there's lots of carrots in here. Again, I'm going to be eating carrots or processing carrots for probably the next couple months. I'll just give you a close-up look of a few of these bunches that I just dug up. But I didn't get a lot of carrots today. I just don't. They need to be processed. They go limp if you don't take care of them. And if I don't have the time to get them cleaned up and get them in the fridge, then I'm not going to pick too many because they just go limp. But here's another big old handful of carrots coming out of here. Now here's one very interesting. You see a white carrot. This is a unique variety that I planted this year. And I did get some big white carrots. I haven't tried them yet, so we'll see how they taste. And just some other freaks of nature there and some carrots with some different shapes. But they're very tasty this year. Well, here's a good look at what we picked today. We've got green peppers, eggplants, hot peppers, cucumbers. We have red cabbage. There's 3 heads I picked today. We have a bunch of different types of potatoes from purple, red, and the white, and some russets. And as we scan through here, there's a couple of really nice potatoes. And we have some carrots. And there's the white carrots I mentioned earlier. There's always a carrot that's kind of funny. This one was kind of a humorous carrot. And lots of tomatoes. So this is what you're going to see me take home. Most of this, I'll leave some for the homeowner. Here's some turnips. Still got some good-sized turnips and some leeks. Nice root structure. They just didn't grow very big this year. But looking back, it's the time of plenty. Late or middle October. And now when I narrate this, it's November, and we're still getting tons of produce. Here's some white carrots. And there's some leeks. Again, not big. They'll grow bigger in the future. The 3 heads of cabbage. Again, I planted them in the spring. And these are 3 of the bigger potatoes today. And another look at the bountiful harvest. And again, the garden. Growing your own food, it's the only way to go. The taste, the nutrition, and just the ease of knowing where your food comes from. It's comforting. Lots of tomatoes. So thank you. If you'd like to continue to follow me on my journey and living my best rural life in the city, please subscribe to my channel, like, share, and comment, as I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.